Hi everybody, this is Claire, and I'm going to teach a Friday night yin session. This class is going to last about an hour rather than the hour and a half that we're used to for my Friday night yin classes. If you hadn't already seen, as a Peace Through Yoga yogi, then we are going to online classes starting this weekend. And so if you are interested in continuing some classes with me, we're going to have some classes with me and lots of other teachers available on Zoom, and that is through Peace Through Yoga. So if you have not already, go to Peace Through Yoga's website and create a username and a password so that you have a profile, and that profile will allow you to access these classes that we're going to have online. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead and do so. I'll put more information about that in the comments or a separate post as well. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start on our backs in our Shavasana. I already have my props set up, so you can see we have a bolster here, which is like a big pillow. I have a couple blocks, which is just firm surfaces that can be made out of foam blocks, or you can even just grab a couple hardback books and use those as instead. I have an eye mask for myself and a blanket, which can be pretty much any throw blanket is a proper size. And I have a strap, and of course anything can be used as a strap. It can be a necktie. It can be just a length of any type of fabric. So we will start on our backs in our Shavasana, letting your arms and legs go out long on the mat. Let the palms spin to face the ceiling. And we're just going to soften and come into the space, starting to pay attention. How do I feel right now? How does it feel in my muscles and bones? How does it feel in my ligaments and tendons? And even my emotions. Thinking of our time on our mat as breathing practice. We're going to start to fill up the belly, then the ribs, and then the chest. For exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Squeezing everything out on the exhale, create space for full, complete inhales. Notice if these full, complete breath cycles start to make you feel sleepy or tired. Push through that. We're creating both the strength in the diaphragm to breathe against any impingements or restrictions in the poses, as well as the muscle memory to take these full, complete breath cycles off of the mat and back into our daily lives. Take one more full, complete breath cycle like this. Notice if by exhaling everything down to the bottom, and then a little bit more, if maybe the beginning of your inhale feels a little bit more passive as the lungs equalize in pressure with the room before filling up the rest of the way. We're going to reach out and we're going to find our strap to begin. We're going to feed the strap around the bottom of the right foot, drawing this foot up towards the sky. Now I want you to lock out the knee, so no nicer bend to the knee. I want to actually lock out. It helps to have the arms straight if the arms are bent and you're using up the biceps. So go ahead and find straight arms here. And we're just going to let the leg hang in the strap. So we don't need to pull on this. We're not trying to get it any further back. We're just letting it find its maximum and relax. For a reminder tonight, if you've never taken a yin class with me before, or even if you have, we have 3 tenets with yin that we're trying to obey. The first tenet is that we want to find our edge, which is about 80% of our maximum. That means that if we're finding a place where we need to fidget or shift, we've gone too deep. We've gone past our edge. So there can be a little bit of an education. The first time you come to a pose, you might accidentally take it too deep and need to come back out and then come back in at a shallower angle. We want to find that edge, because anytime we need to fidget or shift, we're essentially starting the pose over. The second tenet of yin is that we want to become muscularly soft. So we want to make sure that we're not pulling and we're not making the muscles contract. If the muscles are in any type of contraction, that means that we're protecting the fascia, and we actually want to stretch the fascia here. This is the ligaments, tendons, shiny white surfaces of the muscles that you've seen if you've ever skinned chicken, and even the joints themselves. Finally, we're going to hold each pose for time. We're here for minutes, not moments. Just like moving teeth in bone, you don't jerk them around. We put braces on and move them slowly over long periods of time. This is the same type of tissue, and we want to give it the same type of respect. Now we're going to go ahead and open this leg up. So we're going to let the leg open out to the right. And what I want you to do is find the place where the leg's just hovering over the ground. So I could take this up higher, but that means I've lost what I'm looking for in the pose. So what I'm looking for is to find the place where the leg is just barely off the ground here. Now this might be really low down to the bottom of your mat. That's okay. Release any judgment of where this reaches. We're just finding the sensation here. Now we're right on bone compression. So this might be uncomfortable. Try holding a little extra saliva in your mouth. This will increase the pain or discomfort tolerance. Just like your mouth goes dry when you're in pain or fear, we're just reversing that. Now, if your leg softens and comes all the way down to the ground, you can let it stay right there. Or if it feels appropriate to do so, pull the leg up another inch so it's hovering a centimeter again and let it soften down again. So choosing the right option for this hip on this side. The two sides can be very different, so just acknowledge whatever you're experiencing here without any judgment of it. We're going to take this leg back up. So if you need to bend the knee to do so, go ahead. We're going to bend the knee if we have to, bringing the leg back up the center. Walk your hands back up the strap. And this time we're going to cross the leg over to the left. And this right hip's going to stay on the ground. So the foot doesn't move very far. It just moves a couple inches across the face. What we're looking for here is a pulling sensation along the outer side of the hip and thigh. Maybe your belly touches the top of the thigh on the inhale. And if so, use that sensation to remind you to keep inflating the belly. When we breathe into the belly, we're telling the body, I feel safe here. I want to release anxiety and tension. Imagine how much tension or anxiety you'd be creating in your body if you spent the day holding in your belly or sucking in your tummy. Let that go full with the breath. Soften the jaw, soften the face. Let there be space between the upper and lower teeth. Unfurrow the brow. Carefully, we're going to bring this leg back into center, and now we're going to bend the knee. We're going to walk our hands up towards the foot. The foot is going to face the ceiling, and the knee's coming down toward the chest. You're going to get limited here by your hip opening. Let this be wherever it is. So you're not trying to pull this down any further. You're just letting this hang heavily in the strap. This is the side that I have my hamstring tear on. So you can see that right now I'm getting limited by that tear. The limitation is becoming a sensation in my leg. And I don't want to push past it because I don't want to hurt it and I don't want the leg to engage. If I can feel my foot pressing into the strap, I need to let strap out. I want to let this leg hang heavy. Just observe the space between your chest and your thigh here. Think about when we make a runner's lunge in a regular class. We usually have the weight of the body pushing this space closed. The upper body comes down to the top of the thigh and the hands reach the floor or maybe blocks next to the foot. So this is where we can see what our true hip opening is without the weight of the torso to close that gap. Come back to the breath. Notice if your breath has gotten shallow or passive already, and congratulate yourself for noticing before deepening it again. Always speaking as kindly to yourself as you would want a stranger to speak to your friend. Human beings, all animals, only learn through positive reinforcement. We cannot berate ourselves to greatness. We're going to come into the original version of the pose here. So go ahead and slowly straighten up the leg, walking your hands up the strap. Notice if it feels like the toes come any closer to you. Release any judgment if they do or don't. We're not trying to force this. Maybe even if they don't come any closer to you, it just feels like they do. Or maybe it just feels more easeful to the place that you've gotten to. So letting yourself come into this first pose again, just letting this settle in, observing if there's been any changes made in the body since the other poses have been taken. Things like this, where we come back to an original version of a pose, let's just see how yoga changes us. We're going to inhale, lower this leg down to the mat. We're going to step the left foot into the strap, and then step the right foot out of the strap. That means that we don't have to move around toward the bottom of that. Let's draw that left leg up towards the sky, walking the hands up the strap. Let the leg hang heavily in the strap. So again, we're at the original version of the pose. We don't have any judgment of how high this foot is getting. We're not trying to force this back. We don't want the muscles to engage. We want this leg heavy in the strap, and we want to make sure the knee is locked out. So no micro bend to the knee. Lock it out. Let the leg hang heavily. We really do want to pull on our fascia here. Breathe deep. Keep count over how long it takes you to inhale. See if you can make your exhale match that same length of time. Slowing it down, stretching it out. See if you can make it last for 10 counts. And if that gets easy, stretch it out to 12, challenging the body without inflicting pain. We have just a few more breaths here. Observe where the toes reach on the ceiling. Maybe that answer will be different when we come back to this shape. On an inhale, we're going to let that left leg open out to the left. And again, we're just finding the place where it hovers over the ground. So if you need to, let it come down lower to the bottom of the mat. So don't be judgy if it feels like, well, gosh, it's almost barely off the bottom of the mat. That's just where it is. There is not a map in the world that can take you where you want to go if you're not willing to admit where you are. If the leg lowers all the way down to the ground, if it meets the ground, you can let it stay right there if that feels like the right answer for this hip joint, or you can haul it up another centimeter and let it soften down again. The two hips can have different experiences. They might have different answers. So maybe one side that is the case, and maybe on the other side it isn't. That's okay. We are inner explorers. We're just finding out what happens inside of our skin when we take on these shapes. The body always opens in the perfect time, never early and never late. So wherever you are in your yoga journey, there is no need to force anything. You're already right on schedule. We're going to carefully bring this back up to center. So again, if you need to, you can bend the knee here. So if you want to bend the knee and make it a little bit easier to bring the leg back up, that's fine. We're going to walk our hands up the strap so that the leg is straight, and then we're going to cross the leg over to the right. And again, we're going to keep that we're going to keep that left hip down. If we let the left hip leave the ground, we'd come into a twist, and this is not a twist. So you should not be feeling this in your back. This is all about the hip and thigh, the leg, the hamstring, that whole area. So we should be feeling it here and definitely not in our back. If you're feeling any kind of twist, make sure your hips are flat to the ground. You'll have to pardon my cat here. He decided that he wanted to join and see what we're doing. Hey, Jace. Just a couple more moments here. Notice the sensations. Are they getting more intense or less intense? What is dissipating for you? What is intensifying? We're going to inhale and bring this back up to center. Bending the knee, walk your hand up towards the foot, letting the leg hang heavily in the strap. On this side, I don't have a hamstring injury, so I can literally just take the foot and I don't feel any tension in this thigh. It's completely relaxed. I still have a little space between my knee and my chest, and that lets me see what the true hip opening is on this side. Like I said, it may be different on the two sides, and right now it definitely is for me. So whatever your answers are, just observing them without judgment. This is just where it is today. Every pose is unique and every practice is unique. The next time you come to this shape, it will be different, and so will you. So appreciate where this is today, because we're never going to be here again. All right, it's time to release this pose. So we're going to find the strap again if you haven't already let go of it, and we're going to straighten the leg up back into the original version of this shape. So now we're back in leg and a strap, just letting the leg hang heavily. Notice if it feels like it's coming a little closer to you, or maybe it just feels a little bit more easeful, a little bit easier to hold on to where it is. Whatever the answer is, again, we're just observing here. There is no judgment. There's no right or wrong answers. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and release this leg all the way back down to the mat. Take the strap off of the foot, set it off to the side, and we're going to wait here for our reverberation. So reverberation is after the pose, coming into a neutral position, resisting any urge to take back and forth motions, fidgeting, shifting, counter stretches, any of that, and waiting for the sensations of the pose to pass for us. Now that can feel like energy running through you, like tingling. It can feel like hot or cold sensations. It can feel like you're 1,000 years old or going to break apart or shatter. All of these things are normal and natural. Wait for those sensations to subside before you take any back and forth motions, any next poses, any counter stretches. Only you know when your reverberation is complete. Only you are inside of your skin. I teach about 40 yin classes a week, at least up until this week. So my reverberation may be shorter than yours. So if I'm moving before you're ready to move after each pose, do not move with me. Wait until you are ready. You can always join. These poses are held long enough that you're going to get plenty of time. So we're going to come to a lunge now. We're going to do dragon lunge, which is the yin version of low lunge. Now, if you want to, you can use a blanket to pad your back knee. I'm on carpet here, so I don't need it. And also, I don't really want to disturb my kitty cat. So I'm just going to let him stay right here on my blanket and just use the padding of the carpet. But if you need to, use a blanket underneath the back knee, because we're in yin, which means we're here in these poses for minutes, not moments. So if you need to pack the back knee, make that happen. We're going to step the right foot forward, and we're going to find the place where the front knee is at a right ankle or an obtuse angle. So if we have an acute angle where the knee is pointing past the toe, it can put us at risk of a knee blowout. So we don't want to do that. We want at least a right angle here, but if you want to get after it or just want to stay extra safe, you can take an obtuse angle, letting the foot come past the knee. Now, I highly recommend having blocks here, and the reason is because this is going to get pretty intense, and even if you don't need the blocks in the pose, you might want them to escape the pose. So while we're in the pose, we've got our back leg flat, or back foot flat. We can come onto blocks. We can be on our hands on the blocks on any level. The blocks have 3 levels. You can have the hands on the mat. It's okay to let your head drop, and it's okay to let the big C curve to come into the spine here. If this was regular yoga, I'd be cueing you much differently. We'd be very concerned about the upper body posture. That is not true here. So we want our bodies to go soft. The hands are on either side of the foot, and the leg comes on the inside of the arm. So we don't want the arm on the inside of the leg. We want the leg on the inside of the arm. Letting the back leg go soft, check in with the calf and the foot, make sure it's relaxed. Let the front leg go soft. You might start to feel the arm or the leg press against on the inside of the arm, and the hips are shifting towards the front of the mat or towards the front of the room. So you're going to feel this start to pull in the groin. Breathing here, notice how the sensations are developing. As we hang out, this might get more intense or less intense. You can have different sensations develop. Just notice what they are as we hang out. Can you feel your belly expand and slide past the inside of your right thigh? If so, continue to use that sensation to remind you to inflate the belly completely. Relax your face. How is the depth and quality of your breath here? Has it gotten shallow or passive? Again, congratulate yourself for noticing before deepening it. What we want is to make noticing the breath cycle a positive experience for us, even if it's not the breath cycle we really kind of want. As long as noticing the breath becomes a positive experience for us, we have a greater chance of learning to monitor the breath. Monitoring the breath means that we also have a greater chance of keeping the full breath cycles that we're looking for. We just have a couple more moments here. Now, if you have the blocks with you, or if you have books or whatever else you're using here in the case, we're going to take this on the highest level and help yourself back out of the shape. So it can be difficult to exit the pose, so draw yourself back. You might end up kneeling on the back of the mat. You may end up sitting at the back of the mat. Some people feel like taking a child's pose here, letting their forehead find the mat. Whatever feels like a neutral position, wait until the two sides of your body are relaxed and feel the same again. Only when your hips and legs have forgiven you will we set up for the other side. Like I said, if you are not ready to move, don't move yet. Wait for your body. You don't need to do this with me. Again, we want to make sure we have that right angle or an obtuse angle with the knee, not an acute angle. Shifting the hips forward, let the back leg go soft. Let the groin relax so that it's coming down towards the mat or toward the front of the mat. Letting the front leg relax, you're going to feel the left leg press into the inner left arm. You can be on blocks, you can be on the mat with your hands, you can do whatever you'd like to help stabilize yourself as we hang out here. Deep, slow breath cycles. Are you getting sleepy or tired from these breath cycles? We spend most of our day or our time speaking shallow, passive breaths, barely as much as we need, and only sitting, standing, and laying. So this is asking our body to deepen these breath cycles so that we have the ability to breathe easily in any position that life puts us in, which always sounds like a cutesy saying until you drop your phone behind the headboard or you're really congested. Just a little bit further. We're about halfway there already. Let the face be soft. Let the belly expand with the breath. Notice if you're trying to hold tension in the belly, relax that. Are the sensations you're experiencing on this side similar to the other side? Maybe they're more difficult to breathe through or easier. Maybe you're feeling it in a slightly different way. If you have an injury, maybe you're feeling that injury. Make sure you're not inflicting pain. If you need to, back out. We only want the edge. If you're going past the edge, you're not doing yourself any favors. The muscles will tense up. You can end up hurting yourself. We just want to find the place that we can hang out without any need to fidget or shift. Grab the blocks if you have some. Finding the highest setting, help yourself out of this pose, making your way to the back of the mat, maybe to stand on the knees, maybe to sit back onto the heels, maybe you're taking a child's pose. You're looking for your reverberation, the place where you can soften and feel in a neutral position. Breathe here. All right, we're going to come to double pigeon or square pose. Now, I'm going to set some blocks up here and see where that gets me in my square pose. I'm going to turn a little bit towards you so that you can see what I'm doing here. So square pose is really a double pigeon. So it's kind of like sitting cross-legged, but it's more intense, which is why I want to make sure I'm high enough. And this is probably not going to be high enough, and I'll show you. So we want the shin parallel. So we don't want the foot back here. We want the foot out so that the shin makes a nice straight line in front of us. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the other foot and put it on top of that knee. Now, for some people, they sit in this and their legs go flat and they just look completely flat and it looks like stacked fire logs. It's very pretty. Obviously, my hips don't want to do this, and this is pretty high. It would be kind of uncomfortable to sit like this, so I'm going to raise my seat even further. I'm going to take a bolster, and I'm going to put this bolster on top of my blocks. Now, like I said, you can use a couch cushion here, maybe some pillows from your bed, whatever you've got to do to get your hips high enough so that when you put the other foot on top of your knee, that this doesn't feel terrible. So this looks pretty bad. It looks like a big old Z here, like Zorro's been here, but we're going to go ahead and make this work for me. So this is my version of square pose. Maybe yours looks like mine. Maybe it looks worse than mine. Maybe it looks better than mine. There's no judgment. This is just where it is today. So we're in our square pose. My right leg is on top. I don't care if you watch me or if you mirror me or do the same as me, as long as you don't do the same side twice. And you'll know if you do the same side twice because the second side will feel easy and natural. And that's how you know you're doing the same side twice. It should feel just as awkward the second time as it did the first. We're going to take a grip to the strap, a wide grip. Wider grip is easier, narrow grip is harder. If you notice your elbows bending, just go ahead and widen out the grip. Sitting up tall here, inhale, bring the back behind you. Exhale, down. Inhaling up. Exhale forward. Inhale up, exhale back. Again, inhale up, exhale forward. We're going to do one more, and it's going to end with it behind us. All right, we're going to let go with one hand, doesn't matter which one. Take the other hand back behind the head, find the strap, and draw it off to the side like we're the world's worst archer trying to take a shot at the sky. So the arm that's getting pulled behind the head is where the shoulder stretches. We're breathing here, keep the gaze up. Notice that there's an emotional trigger for you here. When I stretch my shoulders, it's a column of fiery frustration right up the center of me. So if you're experiencing that, you're in good company. We're going to carefully bring this over to the other side. Let the arm drop back behind the head. Let this arm come out to the side. So when we're in poses and we get emotionally triggered by the poses, this is where yoga becomes a bit of a mental game, where we're learning to breathe through these emotional sensations while we feel safe here on our mat, so that maybe we can take that skill off the mat when we feel less safe and those same emotions start to trigger us. All right, we're going to let go with the far hand, find the strap from the bottom, and pull down now. Now we're in the tricep at the top arm. Breathing here, experiencing the stretch in this direction. Now use the top hand to pull the bottom arm up the back. Maybe you let out some extra strap if it makes it easier to hold on to this. Inhale, release the top hand, let it come down. The bottom hand's going to drop back behind the head again, and we're going to find the strap from the bottom, pull down, gaze comes up. So now we're in that tricep shoulder stretch of the other arm. Using the top hand, now pull that bottom arm up the back. It's okay if you have to let out some extra strap to make this comfortable. In theory, we could do this just by clasping our hands behind our back and pulling in head of cow arms, but for many people, it's either accessible only on one side or not accessible at all, and it's absolutely frustrating when that happens. So rather than even trigger any of that frustration, we're just going straight to the strap for the stretch. Carefully releasing the strap, we're going to set the strap off to the side. Now we're going to come down off of our prop. So I'm going to untangle my legs just long enough to get down onto my seat, and I'm going to find that same situation again. So now I've got the same setup, only I'm down on the ground, and you can see how high this is. That's okay. We're going to fold forward. Now for some people, including me, that's just putting fingertips down, and that's as far as I'm going to get. Some people can lay all the way out long. Maybe you're putting a prop down and putting the arms on the prop, whatever makes this accessible to you. So we're just finding out what we're going to feel here in this external rotation of the legs. So like I said, this is where it is. Even if you're just barely getting the fingertips down in your fold forward, that's okay. You don't have to worry about upper body posture. So if you want to drop your upper body, that's fine. Breathe. Do not hold or clench the breath. Let the full breath cycles come through. If you feel discomfort in your knee, flex your foot, and that's going to protect your hinge joint. All right, ready to get out of this? Me too. Help yourself apart. Move as slowly as you need to. Find whatever neutral position helps. We are going to wait until we receive. So our knees and our hips feel normal again. Wait till everything feels okay again. Take as long as you need. As I've said before, I do this quite a lot, so maybe my reverberation is shorter than yours. Only when you are done, only when you are finished reverberating will we set up for the other side. Now, you might be needing to come back up to the highest level that you did before. You might not need to. So your hips can be two very different ways. One can be much more open than the other. That's okay. Only when you're ready, we're setting up the front shin to be parallel to the top of the mat, and the the top foot comes on top of that knee. And this is my left leg on top. So again, if you are mirroring me, that's fine. If you're not, that's fine. Just make sure you don't do the same side twice. All right, now we're going to stretch our neck. So we're going to start by bringing these shoulders up by the ears. Exhale, let them come down. Again, inhale, bring them up. Exhale, let them come down. One more time. This time, lock them up to the back of the head or the neck as tight as this goes, and then a little tighter. Exhale, release. We'll drop the right ear over to the right shoulder. Reach the left fingers out long. Maybe they find the floor, maybe they find the bolster, whatever they can touch. Let the head get heavy, and then we're going to take that right hand and place it on the side of the head. We're not pulling, we're just letting the elbow be heavy here. And that is just going to create a ballast, lengthening out the neck. Breathe here as you feel this and lengthen. Releasing the side of the head. Let the head rock. Maybe you're turning the chin up or down. Maybe you're looking over the shoulder. Looking for anything that's sore or tight. Stay on it. See if you can get it to release. We're going to turn the left palm to the sky. Now, take the left hand behind the back, and we're going to wrap it around for the right hip in graceful bow. From here, we're going to look into our own right armpit and place the right hand on the side of the head. We're not pulling, just the weight of the elbow increases the sensation of us looking into our right armpit. Let the head and neck be heavy. Let the belly be soft as it fills with breath. Carefully releasing the side of the head. We're going to look over one shoulder and then the other. Just reset the neck. It might be a little tender there. All right, we're going to drop the left ear over to the left shoulder. Reach the right fingers out long for the floor or the bolster, whatever they reach, whatever they touch is where it's fine. We're going to bring the left hand to the side of the head. And again, we're not pulling on the neck. It's just a gentle ballast to increase the length we create as we breathe. Release the side of the head. Let the head rock. Maybe you're turning the chin up or down. Maybe you're looking over the shoulder. Turn the right palm to the sky. And then take the right arm behind the back for the left hip in graceful bow. And if you find something that wants your attention or your love in your neck, work on it. See if you can get it to relax for you. And then we're going to look into our left armpit and then bring the hand to the side of the head. So we're just letting the elbow be heavy to intensify the looking into the armpit sensation. Carefully release the head. Let the head come back up, look over one shoulder and then the other. Slowly let the neck reset. We're going to drop the chin to the chest, interlace the fingers, and let them come to the back of the head. Elbows are heavy. We're not pulling down. Sitting up through the spine and breathing into the belly will intensify the stretch this gives us between the shoulder blades. Carefully release this. Head comes up. All right, let's come down off of our props. So if you need to untangle your legs to do that, that's fine. We're going to come into the pose again. So that same left leg is on top, and we are folding down. So maybe you're getting the fingertips down. Maybe you're laying out long. Maybe you're somewhere in between. It's okay to let your upper body hang if you want. Let the legs go soft, experiencing the stretch this creates. And again, if this feels terrible in this knee, just flex this foot. Protect that knee. Breathe deep. Carefully unfurl this as slowly and gently as you need, being as gentle as possible. Wait for those joints to receive, wait for your body to forgive. And again, my reverberation may be faster than yours. That's okay. I do this more often than you, most likely. All right, we're going to come into a Sphinx pose. So we're going to do some back bending here. We're going to be on our bellies. Now, if you do not have a big back bending practice, I would highly recommend you stay in a basic Sphinx pose, just having the hands clasped on the elbows directly underneath the shoulders. Now, if you back bend a lot, you love wheel pose, you love back bending, it's your favorite, and you're super open the back, there is a progression to this of having the arms underneath the shoulders, the elbows locked out, and in a full-on seal pose. Now, you'll notice that I can't lock my elbows. I've done too many exercise classes where like, don't lock your elbows. Now they don't lock. So I can't do seal pose. Seal pose is inaccessible to me because if your elbows can't lock, then your upper body is in contraction, and then we're never getting into that yin state of releasing our muscle tension. So if you're halfway in between, if you're like, well, I'm not getting enough just having the hands clasped like this, you can start to add some stacked blocks or some other leveling up, maybe a bolster, maybe a blanket, underneath your elbows. And that's just going to increase the height of this back bend. So when we're ready, we're going to clasp our elbows. Now this is where it's going to get tough. Let the upper body sink. Let the waist get soft. Unclench your buttocks. Oh, ho, ho. They've suddenly turned on, huh? The legs get heavy. Let the toenails be heavy to the mat. Feel them pull you down into the earth. Now we're going to bring our attention back to our hips our waist and our buttocks. Notice what has tried to clench up the moment your mind wandered away from it. Keep extending the invitation to those muscle fibers to relax. Notice if there's some of them that can't receive that yet, and just keep on offering that even if they're not able to. Now we're compressing right over our sacral chakra here. This is right over the sacral spine. So if you're feeling some emotional reaction here, it can probably be related to that chakra. And that is the chakra of connection, but it's also where we lock up social fears or anxiety. So it can feel like fight or flight. It can feel like wanting to be anywhere but here. It can feel like anger or frustration, which are secondary emotions to fear. Any of these things are normal and natural, and we're just breathing through them until we get that experience. So again, this is one of those places where we might be having an emotional experience. Now, speaking of the breath here, notice if your breath feels different. Maybe the back bend is restricting it a little bit. Is there anything that you're breathing gingerly around? Expand into this. Explore inside of your own skin. If you're noticing the body is still clenching or tense, remind yourself that this back bend is safe, that your elbows and shoulders have you, the floor has you. It's as deep as it's going to get. The body can be like a scared little animal. It remembers all the times we've hurt it, all the times we've pushed it too far, all the times we just plain didn't listen. Here, we're earning that trust back. We're showing that we can listen. We can understand what limitation is, and we can follow that limitation. Just a little further here. Now, for many people, when they exit this pose, they like pushing back to a child's pose. Some people prefer just to lower down onto their bellies, maybe sealing one ear down or then the other, with the hands by the hips to help you fully relax. Whichever sounds like the better option for you, help yourself there. So whether you're just going to lay down on your belly and let the head come down, let the hands come back by the hips, this is perfectly acceptable. Maybe you want to reverberate here. Maybe you want to push yourself back into a child's pose and reverberate in a child's pose. Wait for that to move through you. Only when you have fully experienced your reverberation will we move on. So we're going to actually do a child's pose now. So we're going to do a widening child's pose. So our toes are together, our knees are apart, but we're going to make two layers for ourselves. So I'm going to use 2 blocks and a bolster. But you could use 2 blocks and a blanket. I got a kitty cat in my blanket, so I'm not going to use my blanket. But you can use any 2 levels that you want to use. Whatever 2 levels is fine. So we're going to start, and we're going to come onto our bellies. So our seat goes back to feet. And we're bringing our chest onto the bolster, and we're going to put our face in one direction. I don't care which direction. We're just going to let ourselves relax. You can let your arms come out long. They can be back by your sides. You can bring the feet or the hands back by the feet and turn the palms up if you want to relax the shoulders a little bit. Whatever feels like a good place for your arms is exactly where your arms should be. Now, notice how this feels to breathe. We've got lots of space here between the thighs to inflate the belly. We're lifted up out of the hips because we have the bolsters, the blocks, or whatever layers we're using. So we're not having the same experience that we would if we just came straight down into child's pose. Think about how it feels if you come down into child's pose in a regular class, just going straight all the way back into child's pose. So this is a little bit different. It's got a little bit more space to breathe and a little bit more space to relax in. We're going to get ready to change that right now.
we're going to come up just enough to get rid of one layer of props. So maybe you're pushing the blocks out from underneath your bolster. Maybe you're just setting your bolster off to the side. Might went a little far. All right, now we're going to come down to the second layer and turn our face the other direction. So whatever direction you turned the first time, we're turning it the opposite direction. Notice how it feels to breathe in this deeper child's pose. We're coming down a little bit deeper into the hips. What does this feel like as it sinks down? All right, coming back up, we're going to get rid of all of our props, and we're going to change our child's pose. We're going to widen out our feet, so our feet are in line with our knees. Now, maybe they're already all the way to the edge of the mat. Maybe they're in a little bit, but the feet are in line with the knees. And now we're going to send our seat back and find child's pose on our forehead. So this child's pose is really intense. I call it chicken in a pot because it feels like when you're breaking the hips back of a chicken carcass to put in a pot for a roast. So this is very intense. Let the forehead find the mat. The arms can be wherever you need them to be. Carefully walk yourself up out of the shape. Take as long as you need to get your body back into a neutral position, whatever neutral position that is. You might be laying back on your mat, long in a Shavasana. Maybe you're just sitting up. Whatever helps you receive that is where you should be. All right, we're going to do a pose that officially is named Melting Heart, but I like to call it Yoga Yuck. And you're about to find out why. All right, so we're going to do Melting Heart, and this means that we are kneeling at the back of the mat. So our hips are going to stay over our knees. So we're not going to shift the hips forward. We're not going to shift the hips back. The knees can be hip width apart. And we're going to come out long so that we're coming down onto our chest and our chin. Now you're going to notice that I'm nowhere near that. If I tried to hang, I would either be hanging or my face would be down on the mat. Now, if you don't like either one of those options, you can take something and stack it underneath your chin or underneath your chest, raising the floor. I'm going to let you know when we're about a minute into this, and you can decide whether or not you want to take your block or take your prop out from underneath you. If you take it out and you hate it, just put the prop back in. There's no rule saying that you have to take the prop out. You can stay with the prop for as long as you like. If you don't like the prop and you don't mind your head hanging, if you're not quite reaching the ground, that's okay. So we're going to feel this in our shoulders. And it might even feel like somebody's got ice picks stuck in your armpits. That's okay. That's the sensation of the pose. We're stretching our upper shoulders and our back and our chest. Breathe here. Let the belly hang and be soft. All right, if you want to try it without your block, take your prop out and see how it feels. If you hate it, just put the prop back. Notice if you're holding tension in your lower body and let that go. Carefully help yourself out. For some people, it's pushing back. For some, it's shifting forward. Help yourself out of melting hearts. Can you tell why I call that pose yoga yuck? Oh, that one was intense, right? How are we doing on time? All right, we got time. Good. So we are going to move to a next stretch called Mermaid Pose, or my other name for this pose is yoga naps. Now, yoga or yoga naps or mermaid pose is done with a bolster. So you can use a couple pillows here. You can use a bolster if you have one. If you don't have a bolster, you can grab a cushion off the couch. We are going to sit next to our bolster like a mermaid on a rock. Then we are going to take our hands on either side of the bolster and let the chest find the bolster. Now the face is going to go the same direction as the knees at first. So we're going to hang out like this for about a minute, letting yourself soften. This is a neck stretching pose. Now, when it comes time to turn the head in the opposite direction, wherever the head lands the first time you turn it is where you leave it. Do not try to deepen your neck stretch in this pose. When I say pick up your head and turn it to the opposite side of the opposite direction, even if you land on your lips or your face, that's your limit. You can pad underneath the ear if you need to with a blanket if you just can't hang out on the lips or the face if that's as far as it goes. But you do not want to wait and try to push the neck a little further. You'll be so far into this relaxation, you won't realize you're giving yourself a neck injury until it's too late. So let's go ahead and pick up the head and turn it to the opposite direction. And wherever it lands is wherever it lands. Carefully press into the hands and then let your neck around. Oh, do you feel the neck stretching out? Now, you can turn the bolster around or you can turn you around. Whatever, doesn't matter. We're going to find the other side. So, when you feel ready to do so, we're going to let the hands come on either side of the bolster. Chest meets the bolster. Face goes the same direction as the knees to prepare. Letting yourself soften here for the first minute. This is the easy side of the neck stretch. Let yourself be gentle. Let yourself be soft. All right, it's time to turn it up a notch. Are you ready? We're going to press into the hands, turn the head the other direction, and be okay with wherever that lands. It might not be on the ear at all. It may be on the side of your face. That's okay. Just don't try to deepen it. Press into your hands. Help yourself up. Then let your neck come around. Ooh, how did that feel? All right, time for our final pose into Shavasana. So if you want to do this pose with your eye mask already on, that's a perfectly acceptable answer. We're going to do block tuck. And as you guys probably know, this is one of my favorite poses to end with because for a lot of people, this helps them make Shavasana. This makes Shavasana accessible or possible for them. So this is where we're going to lay down on our mats. We're going to take the block and put it underneath the bottom third of our bottom. So it's down low. It's not up high. This is not a back bend. This is down low. It should feel like your tailbone is being tucked for you. Once you have this, we're going to bring the feet in and let the knees open out. And when that happens, if you're like, oh, I need to adjust the block, that's totally normal. So get that adjusted. And now we are in a butterfly shape. So letting yourself soften here. If you've not done this pose with me before, one of the things you'll notice as you start to relax is you might feel your internal organs start to slide up into a new position. Maybe you feel the intestines fall away from the wall of the abdominal. Maybe you can feel a digestion sensation start. I mean, we are in inversion here. This is an inversion. Our hips are higher than our heart. So notice how that is being experienced by you. Letting yourself get soft. Now, this is the more intense version of the pose. There are a couple students of mine that find the intense version of the pose easy and the less intense of the version of the pose more difficult. If you're doing this at home and you're one of these people, then reverse these two. You know who you are. So we're going to go ahead and find the less intense version of this pose. So we're just going to let the legs go out long. At this point, it should feel almost like you're laying flat. You should barely be able to tell that you have a block underneath you at all. It should feel like you are almost ready for Shavasana, just like this. And if that is where you're feeling, if that's where you are, then that is great news. It's where we want to be. It means we're totally relaxed, totally softened onto this block. All right, we're going to find Shavasana now. So we're going to pull the block out from underneath us. It's going to feel like your bottom just fell into a hole. If you don't already have your eye mask on and you have an eye mask or even a sock to lay over your face, go ahead and do that. Let the light get blocked out. We're going to go ahead and let our hands come to our sides. Let the palms spin to face the ceiling. Pull the shoulder blades down the back and then lay on them so it pulls the shoulders down. Let the body soften here. So Shavasana or corpse pose is considered the most important pose of a practice because without it, you haven't done yoga at all. All you've done is exercise. Here is where the body receives all those poses as a new understanding, like a defrag program for the body. So let this be your time to receive and allow. Let the muscles of your face relax, letting them slide down the bones of your skull.
your shoulders relax. Let the fingers curl in. Let the spine get heavy, pulling you down into the earth. The legs unwrap from the bone, and the toes droop lower as well. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Bring energy back into your body. Note how you feel now and compare that to how you felt when we began our practice. Draw your arms high overhead. Everything's squeezing it tight for a morning stretch. And then roll over to your favorite side for a moment of transition and rebirth. That's out of the way. There we go. Be a lamp, a light bulb, a ladder. Help someone's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. Rumi. When you're ready, push yourself back up to seated.
We're going to cross the legs and stack the bones of the spine. Inhale, we'll draw the arms high overhead, letting the palms touch. Exhale them down to heart center. Thank you for sharing your practice with me this evening. My blessing upon you. We are complete. Namaste. So, as always, if you have any problems, questions, places you're still tight, sore, need stretched out, pet poses you're working on, anything at all, send me a message either in the comments or via Facebook Messenger. Just as studio announcements for Peace Through Yoga, we will be having classes online starting this weekend. So we have over 25 classes on the schedule a week now for online classes for the duration of the time that the studio is closed. I hope that you go on to Peace Through Yoga's website and create a profile if you haven't already done that so that you can get notice of these classes and maybe join us for these classes. This will help us keep the studio open. Right now, we do not have any income coming in. We've paused all of our memberships and paused all of our packages for our students, and we're happy to do that. But of course, we still have overhead to cover. So if you are able to join the classes online and be a part of keeping the studio open during this very stressful time, we would really appreciate it. And as always, thank you so much for being part of my practice.